Welcome to the festive edition of Word of the Week, and this week we have the word gammon. Gammon. Why is gammon festive? Gammon is festive because festive is ham. Ham is Christmas ham. Who doesn't like a Christmas ham? More on the difference between gammon and ham later. So, where does gammon come from? Gammon comes from Latin. It comes from the Latin gamba, meaning leg of an animal, and that gamba moves into French, becomes jambe, either with a G or a J, and so you get French jambon for ham, either with a G or with a J, and so you get to English in about the early 15th century with gambon, Gambon. And this all starts to make sense. Gammon, gambon, jambon, leg, if you start looking at where ham or gammon comes from on a pig. Starts at a pig, this pig, where is it? As we can see from this picture, in the French, it's jambon is the hind leg, and as we move to the English cuts of the pig, we see the leg being ham or gammon. However, what is the difference between gammon and ham, I hear you asking? Long and short, not very much. Essentially, if you cook a gammon, you get a ham. Technically, from what I've read, a gammon is meat that is being cured, either by being salted, brined or smoked, and sold raw, whereas ham is meat that is dry cured or cooked, and is sold ready to eat, i.e. if you cook your gammon, you've got a ham. If you've got a different definition, by all means pop it in the comments, I'd love to learn. Now, why do we eat ham at Christmas? Assuming you're happy that I've moved on from gammon to ham to Christmas ham. Let's roll with it. So, why do we eat Christmas ham at all? Well, nobody seems to know. There is a very good reason to eat Christmas ham. It is delicious. So enjoy. Pork seems to have been part of German winter festivities for a very, very long time. So German pagan tradition associated the boar with the god Freyr, which is the god of fertility and good weather. And so it looks like they may have sacrificed boars to appease him. But eating pig as part of the sacrifice appears, to my mind, a curious way of approaching the problem. Regardless, we see sort of annual Yuletide festivities marking the return of the sun, so marking the return of good weather, appeasing the god Freyr. You can sort of see a link. But that doesn't seem to make a great link to, say, modern American traditions of eating a Christmas ham. Before we go on to the American position, the having of ham at Christmas does seem to have transitioned into the Christian era, and it became sort of associated with St. Stephen, and the Feast of St. Stephen, is of course the 26th of December, and boar head appears to have been a staple of Christmas feasts during the Middle Ages. When one looks at America, the tradition of eating a Christmas ham, that seems to have been driven as much as anything by cost. It was one of the cheaper meats that you could get to have and enjoy on a Christmas day. But I'm not entirely happy with the idea of the Germanic tradition being the only route for a Christmas ham. And indeed, when you look at Spain, Spain also has a tradition of a Christmas ham, the jamón, the Iberico jamón, and that seems to have come from a very different perspective. That seems to have been a gesture of resistance against the Islamic occupation of the Iberian Peninsula in Spain. And so eating a Christmas jamón was seen as a resisting thing to the more occupiers of their area, and it has survived in spite of the Reconquista eliminating more ownership, if you like, of the Iberian Peninsula in 1492. So that's been rolling around for a good 500 plus years as well. Finally, if you're British and you've been paying attention, you've probably come across the word gammon as an insult. Unhappily, it's often used about essentially ruddy-faced, red-faced, older gentleman getting highly vexed over issues of, shall we say, immigration or Brexit or something like that. It's not a new thing. It's been rolling around since the 16th century, from what I can say. Sorry, from the early 17th, late 16th century. We've got it in 1604. As Gammon faced a ruddy-faced person, it has made a particular reoccurrence in the early part of the 21st century, possibly about a former Prime Minister of ours, joyous man, Prime Minister David Cameron, who the author Caitlin Moran referred to as resembling a slightly camp Gammon robot and a C-3PO made of ham. Cutting nastiness. Also, we see, slightly more recently, 2017, a children's author, Ben Davis, tweeting this picture of 9 members of a BBC Question Time audience, referring to them as the Great Wall of Gammon, which is just really rather nasty, but anyway, that's what seems to have led to being popularised, particularly on social media, if one is to believe Wikipedia, of course. Either way, Gammon as an insult is a thing we have to worry about, but that is not what we're looking to do here. We're looking to celebrate the Christmas ham because it's lovely and delicious, and it was the only way I could get there from G. Gammon. The observant amongst you might have noticed that I could have waited until next week, which is the letter H. Could have done it then. Bugger. Anyway, regardless of whether or not you celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a lovely period. I'm sure many of you will have time off at this juncture, if not for Christmas, then for bank holidays, which are mandated that you enjoy in some fashion. So, good health, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.